I used to come into the cafe at the corner mostly because no one talked much there. The owner, a woman in her 40s with a gray cardigan and calm eyes, moved like she'd been doing this for decades, refilling cups, straightening chairs that didn't need it, always noticing without intruding. She remembered my order after the second week. "Black, no sugar," she'd say, before I even reached the counter. It wasn't flirtation. Just memory. But somehow that was worse. The place was small, with the hum of an old fridge and a clock that ticked louder in the late hours. I used to bring my sketchbook, pretend to work on class assignments. Really, I just liked the sound of her moving behind the counter. The soft scrape of a cup against the saucer. The little sigh she'd let out when the rush ended. She didn't talk about herself, and I never asked. That silence suited both of us. The day everything shifted, I'd come in later than usual. The cafe was fuller, brighter. Laughter coming from a group near the window. I found my usual seat by the corner. She looked different, still composed, but her hands trembled slightly when she poured my coffee. I noticed before she steadied them on the edge of the counter. A man stood near the door, voice raised just enough to draw attention. He was dressed too sharply for the hour. "You planned this, didn't you?" he said. "You wanted them all to see." It took a second to realize what was happening. She didn't look at him. Just kept wiping the same spot on the counter, her movements clipped, controlled. The man laughed once, the kind that wasn't humor. "Fine," he said. "You win. Everyone gets to watch the big breakup." Some people chuckled uncomfortably. A couple turned away. I didn't. When he finally left, door slamming hard enough to shake the bell, she exhaled, but her shoulders didn't drop. She just kept wiping the counter, over and over. No one said anything. The cafe was suddenly too quiet. I got up, walked to the counter, set a folded napkin down beside my cup. "You missed a spot," I said. She glanced up, one short look, almost startled. Then a breath that might have been a laugh. "Guess I did," she murmured. Her voice sounded different, hoarse, fragile at the edges. "You okay?" She didn't answer right away. Just twisted the cloth in her hands until it left a faint red mark on her skin. "I will be," she said finally. There was nothing else to say. I took my coffee back to the corner and watched her move through the rest of her shift like nothing had happened. By the time I left, the cup she'd used to wipe the counter was gone, and the spot was clean. Later that night, I stared at my phone for nearly 10 minutes before typing something and deleting it again. Then another message. Then deleting that too. I don't know what I wanted to say. Maybe that I'd seen the way she looked past everyone when he spoke, like she'd rehearsed not caring. Right before midnight my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You didn't laugh. Just that. No name, no punctuation. But I knew who it was. I didn't reply right away. Just stared at the message until the clock changed to 12:01. Then I typed. Didn't seem funny. 3 dots appeared. Then vanished. And that was how it started, quietly, like everything else that mattered. She didn't text again after that night. But the next morning, when I stopped by the cafe, my coffee was already waiting, steam curling up from the cup, same corner seat open like it always was. No words about the message. No thanks, no awkward laughter. Just a small nod as I came in. Still, something had shifted. I could feel it in the way she avoided looking directly at me. Like we'd shared something we weren't supposed to. A week later it rained. Hard. The cafe stayed nearly empty all afternoon. I was halfway through sketching the outline of a building when she came over with 2 mugs instead of 1. Tea, she said. Too cold for coffee today. I don't even like tea, but I drank it anyway. She sat across from me for the first time. The chair squeaked like it wasn't used to being occupied. After a while, she said, I shouldn't have texted you. I looked up. I didn't mind. That's not the point, she said softly, tracing the rim of her cup with one finger. I just don't like people seeing me like that. She looked out the window, where the rain blurred everything. He wasn't supposed to come in, she added. My ex-husband. He thought it'd be dramatic, I guess. Her voice didn't break, but her hands tightened. I didn't say sorry. Somehow, that felt wrong too. Instead, I said, he didn't know you as well as he thought. That made her look at me, really look this time. Her eyes lingered a second too long. Then she smiled faintly. You're what, 22? She asked. 21, I said. Almost 22. Still think you can read people that easily? No, I said. Just you. That earned a quiet exhale, part laugh, part disbelief. She turned her mug between her palms. For a few seconds we said nothing. Just listened to the rain. When I left, she followed me to the door to lock up. I stood under the awning while she pulled her cardigan tighter. You live nearby, right? She asked. 2 blocks up. She hesitated, keys in hand. You could have just waited until tomorrow. The tea, I mean. I like the rain, I said. I used to, she murmured. Before it started meaning something else. She didn't explain what. She didn't need to. The streetlight flickered once, lighting her face just enough for me to notice the faint scar near her collarbone, something I hadn't seen before. It wasn't new, but it looked like a story that never got told. Without thinking, I reached out, brushed a raindrop off her sleeve. My hand hovered there for a second too long. She didn't move. Just watched me, breathing evenly, eyes unreadable. Then she said, almost to herself, You're too calm for your age. And that should have ended it. But as I turned to leave, I felt her fingers lightly touch my wrist, just a second, barely there. A gesture so small it could have meant nothing. But it stayed with me. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. After that night in the rain, something between us became careful. She still poured my coffee, but now there was always a pause, that extra heartbeat before she slid it toward me. Sometimes our fingers almost touched. Sometimes they didn't. It wasn't flirtation. Not exactly. It was the space before something happens, the kind of silence that hums, low and constant, like electricity through walls. One afternoon, I came in to find someone else behind the counter, a younger woman, chatty, wearing earbuds, music leaking faintly. She's not in today, she said. Day off. It shouldn't have mattered. But it did. I sat in the corner anyway, staring at the empty space where she usually stood. Halfway through my drink, I texted her, then deleted it. Wrote again, hope you're okay. Deleted that too. I ended up leaving the cafe early, the chair legs scraping too loud against the floor. She came back 2 days later. Different blouse. Hair tied up. A faint tiredness in her smile. Everything all right? I asked, trying to sound casual. She gave a small nod, busying herself with the register. Just needed a day, she said. My daughter came by. That stopped me. You have a daughter? Yeah. University. She worries too much. I didn't say anything, but the numbers rearranged themselves in my head. Her age, my age, what this must look like from the outside. She must have read the thought on my face because she said, almost lightly, Don't worry. She doesn't know about you. Then she smiled, small, almost teasing, but it landed wrong. About me? What did that mean? I started to say something, then stopped. The clock ticked louder than usual. Later that week, I came in after closing. I'd been passing by, saw the light still on. She looked up when I opened the door, startled but not angry. I'm cleaning up, she said. Didn't realize it was that late. The cafe was quiet, chairs turned up on tables. I helped her anyway, flipping them down, stacking napkins, sweeping crumbs. We didn't talk much. Just worked side by side. The air between us thick with unsaid things. At one point, she reached to grab a cup at the same time I did. Our hands met. Not brushed. Met. The smallest thing. Her fingers cool from the rinse water, mine trembling just enough to notice. She didn't pull away at first. Then she did. Slowly. You should go, she said softly. Do you want me to? She didn't answer. Just wiped the counter again, even though it was already clean. I stood there, watching her, the hum of the fridge filling the silence. Her shoulders rose, fell. I don't know what you want, she whispered finally. Neither do I said. She turned toward me then, eyes unreadable, mouth parted like she was about to say something. Then the door creaked open. The barista from before, the younger one, poked her head in. Oh, you're both still here. The moment snapped. She stepped back. I exhaled. Later, walking home, I realized my hands still felt warm where hers had been. Almost something. Almost. It was early evening when she asked if I could help carry some boxes from her car. Nothing unusual. I'd done it before. She said they were just supplies for the cafe. The air smelled like rain again. Street lights hadn't come on yet, but the sky was dim enough to make the world look softer, blurred. We carried the boxes to the back storage room. Dust hung in the air, catching light from the open door. She leaned against the shelf, arms crossed, watching me. You've been quiet lately, she said. I set the box down. So have you. Maybe we're both waiting for something. Her tone was light, but there was something underneath. Something cautious. I didn't answer. Just nodded, pretending to study the labels on the boxes. She moved closer, close enough that I could smell the faint citrus of her shampoo. Can I ask you something? She said. You just did. That made her smile, brief, small. Then it faded. Why do you come here every day? She asked. I wanted to say the coffee. Or the quiet. Something safe. But all that came out was, you. It slipped out before I could think. Her eyes flickered, not surprise exactly. More like recognition. That's not fair, she said quietly. I know. She stopped herself. Looked away. You're young. You'll find someone your age. Someone who doesn't. She trailed off, shaking her head like she was trying to erase the thought. Someone who doesn't what? I asked. She took a step back, arms dropping to her sides. Who doesn't already know how it ends? That stayed in the air between us, heavy, impossible to reply to. I wanted to reach out. To touch her hand, her shoulder, anything. But she looked so breakable in that light that I didn't dare. Instead, I said, You think it has to end before it starts? She let out a quiet laugh, tired and self-aware. Everything does. Eventually. Doesn't mean it's not worth it, I said. That made her look at me again, really look, like she was memorizing something she shouldn't. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The hum of the fridge in the next room filled the silence. Her breathing was steady, but her eyes kept darting to my mouth, then away. You shouldn't make it harder than it already is, she said, barely audible. Too late. She exhaled, long, shaky. Her hand brushed mine as she reached for the box beside me. This time she didn't pull away. Her fingers lingered, just long enough for me to feel her pulse under my thumb. Don't, she whispered. I couldn't tell if it meant don't stop or don't start. We stood there, suspended in the quiet, nothing moving except the light shifting through the doorway. Then she said softer, What are we doing? And I didn't have an answer. Not yet. The next morning, the cafe stayed closed. The sign on the door read, Back tomorrow. But it wasn't. Not the next day either. I waited anyway, first standing outside with my coffee from another place that didn't taste right, then just walking by, slower each time. The windows stayed dark. By the fourth day, I told myself I didn't care. That she probably needed time, or maybe she'd gone somewhere, or maybe that moment in the storage room had scared her the way it scared me. Still, I found myself checking my phone too often. Scrolling back to that night. The unsent drafts. The things I didn't say. When her text finally came, it wasn't what I expected. The cafe's closing early this week. Some things to take care of. Thanks for helping that night. That was it. No warmth, no subtext, No question to answer. I typed 3 versions of a reply, all of them sounding like I wanted too much. I erased them all. When I finally saw her again, it wasn't at the cafe. She was sitting on a bench near the park, phone pressed to her ear, talking softly. I almost walked past until I heard her say, "Yes, I know, but she's still my daughter. She doesn't have to like him." Her voice was firm. Then quieter. "It's not like that. He's just a tenant." The words stopped me cold. Tenant. I stood there too long, pretending to check my phone. When she turned, she saw me, eyes widening for just a heartbeat before she hung up. "You heard that," she said. Not a question. Some of it. She sighed, rubbing her temples. "She found out about you. The messages, the late hours." I told her it wasn't. She stopped. Doesn't matter what I told her. I didn't know where to put my hands. I stuffed them in my jacket pockets. "I didn't mean to make trouble," I said. "I know. But you sound like you wish you didn't." She didn't answer right away. Just stared past me, toward the park gates. "I just wish it had stayed simple," she said finally. The air felt colder then, the kind that makes you aware of every space between words. For a while we just sat there. The silence wasn't gentle anymore. It pressed down, asking questions neither of us could answer. She looked like she wanted to say something more, but instead, she stood up. "Take care of yourself," she said. "Not see you tomorrow. Not goodbye. Just that." Then she walked away, coat fluttering slightly in the wind. I waited until she disappeared past the trees before sitting down where she'd been. There was a half-empty cup beside me, still warm. I touched it like it might mean something, then let it go. That night I wrote her a message. "It doesn't feel simple without you." I didn't send it. I just stared at the screen until it dimmed. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. It had been almost 2 weeks since the park. No texts. No late cafe lights. No reasons given. Then one evening, I saw her again, outside her building, standing by the curb, holding 2 grocery bags that looked too heavy for one hand. I almost walked past, but she looked up first. "Oh," she said, a little out of breath. "You still live around here?" "Still your tenant," I said. The way her mouth twitched told me she almost smiled, then changed her mind. I took the bags from her without asking. She didn't argue, just followed me up the steps. Inside, the light in the hallway flickered once before settling, that same uncertain glow from before. "Place looks different," I said. "I moved a few things around," she murmured. "Helps me not think." I set the bags down in the kitchen. The air smelled like soap and rain again. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, eyes on the floor. "You didn't have to help," she said. "I wanted to." She nodded, but her jaw tightened, like wanting and doing were things she didn't trust anymore. We stood there for a while, the hum of the fridge between us. Finally she said, "My daughter thinks you stopped coming by because I told you to. Did you?" She hesitated. "No. I told myself you'd stop on your own." "I tried," I said. That made her look up. "Really look. I'm not good at this," she said softly. "Not at letting people close." "I know. You should be angry," she said. I disappeared. "I was," I said. "But mostly I just missed the noise you made when you wiped the counter." That got a laugh, quiet, reluctant, real. Then she sighed. "You don't make it easy to stay away. Do you want to?" She looked at me, and for the first time, she didn't deflect. Didn't change the subject. "I don't know how not to," she whispered. "It feels like a mistake that keeps feeling right." Her voice trembled slightly. Not from fear, from honesty. I took a small step forward. Just one. Close enough to see the faint scar by her collarbone again. "You don't have to decide right now," I said. "I already did," she said. "Every time I don't text you, every time I close early. That's me deciding." Then why do you look like you want to change your mind? She didn't answer. Her hands were shaking again, barely noticeable, but I saw it. I reached out, not to hold them, just to steady one against mine. Her fingers rested there for a moment, soft, uncertain. I can't promise anything, she said. I'm not asking for anything, I replied. For a long moment, we stayed like that, two people who had run out of ways to hide behind politeness. Then she said, almost to herself, okay. Not surrender. Not certainty. Just okay. And somehow, that was enough. By the time spring came, the cafe had changed its name. New sign, new paint, same old clock that still ran 5 minutes slow. I started helping out on weekends, deliveries, fixing shelves, carrying boxes that weren't really heavy. She didn't ask. I just did it. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. But the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It just was. At 8:47 every morning, she'd unlock the front door, glance at me, and smile like she knew I'd been waiting. I usually had, same corner, same black coffee, sketchbook half full of buildings I'd never finish. The rhythm of it felt like breathing, not exciting, not painful. Just steady. Her daughter came by once that summer. I saw her through the window, the resemblance clear around the eyes, the guarded look familiar. They talked for a while at a table near the door. I stayed behind the counter, pretending to restock napkins. When the daughter left, she waved at me, polite, distant, but not unkind. Later, she said, she still doesn't get it. Thinks this is about loneliness. Is it? I asked. She thought for a long time. Maybe it started that way. But it feels like stillness now. We didn't call it anything. Not dating, not together. Just us. Sometimes she'd close early, and we'd walk to the park where that bench still waited, the one from before. She always sat on the right side. Always ordered tea, even though she liked my coffee better. One evening she said, "Remember the first time you came here? You barely looked up from your sketchbook." I was pretending to be busy. I said, "I know." She smiled. "You still do that." There wasn't much else to say. The sky was dimming, soft orange washing the trees. She leaned against me, not dramatically, not even fully. Just enough that I felt the weight of her shoulder, the quiet proof of time passing without taking too much. We never talked about forever. That word didn't fit us. But some mornings, when the cafe filled with light and her laughter drifted from behind the counter, I'd think, maybe this is what people mean when they say peace. Not the absence of pain, just the acceptance of it. Months later, on a rainy Tuesday, she handed me a mug instead of a cup. "Tea," she said. "Too cold for coffee today." I smiled. "You don't even like tea." She shrugged. "Maybe I'm learning." Her hand brushed mine as I took it. No flinch, no pause. Just warmth, quiet and ordinary. That was the day I realized we didn't need to explain anything anymore. Some stories don't end with declarations. They end when the silence finally feels like home.